Hello, everyone. Welcome to week one recap of TDD Season 8. I'm Juice,
And I'm Diggory.
and today we're coming to you from Blueberry Academy's student club room because we don't have our studio anymore because we did not pay the rent this month.
Yeah, I maybe got a bill in the mail for the rent and I stashed it. So
Why?
we forgot to pay. There was a cool stamp on it and I didn't want to damage the stamp by taking it off. Um, so I added it to my little collection of mail.
And you didn't take the letter out?
No, why would I
Do you
do that?
collect stamps?
No, not really.
TDD's in good hands, everyone. We're very
It's in
professional out
great
here.
hands, yeah.
It's in
But
great hands.
yeah, as a result, we are out of an apartment. We're looking around. We're chilling here in the lounge at the Blueberry Academy, and yeah, we left a lot of our recording equipment in the studio, so we're getting this out late. This
Yeah,
has been a workaround way of apologizing.
we'll get the schedule back on track in the future for future weeks. For right now, we're covering three matches from our first week. Um, Anything else on that before we get started with game one?
Nope, I think this has been a good week. We got some good matches for you, and everyone else enjoy.
Yeah, for sure. I think everyone, it was a really great set of games overall. Sorry if we couldn't get to your game. Uh, Maybe next time. All
Maybe
right, let's
next
go to
time.
game
Do your
one.
games earlier. Just kidding. We're doing this late.
All right, game one time.
All right. First up, we have our first and only quickball match, which is Grimsicott versus Bird Watchers. That's OJ versus Stone.
Yeah,
So
so
this is
this is Stone's first game. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say exactly. Stone's first game versus OJ, who's one of our actually I think our longest quickball veteran. So we have old versus new.
Okay. I mean, what are you thinking right off the lead here? Because we've got the top three from Stone. We're missing Ogre Pawn in the top three from OJ, in place
I
of
see
the
an out of order
stronger.
team on Stone, and I'm
That's
gonna
true.
call that out wherever I can. Stone, get your team in order. No, really though, we have two S tier ghost types, very scary Pokemon. Um, so we have Stone's rather serious balance team with the pretty scary fast A tiers and supporting the Giratina. We've got the pretty slow, like kind of control the pace of the game Pokemon like Moltres and Gastrodon, and then we have your pretty standard fake out support that can deal damage in Salazzle. We are missing Metagross from the B tier, and I would say that's probably because Metagross doesn't really feel so comfortable into the Annihilate.
Yeah, I think you're also
I think
just
that's
gonna get
probably
like
exactly it.
you're gonna get foul played by the Grimmsnarl too, which isn't really fun either.
Hmm.
It does okay into the Psychics if you think the Psychic mode is coming, but I get leaving it behind here, and I think Stone really wanted to bring Salazzle to this game, so something had to drop.
Yeah, why do you think the Salazzle, like, what's he here for? Why do you think he really
So
wanted to bring Salazzle?
I think Salazzle is really here for the Annihilate. Um, Stone, I think, was worried about not having a clean way to just blow up the Annihilate instantly, and wanted to take the approach of just kind of letting it die to toxic damage over time. So the plan was to bring Toxic Spikes to essentially let Annihilate just die pretty quickly on its own without ever having to give it a Rage Fist stack, because OJ, with very few exceptions, and it's like pretty like it's hard for him to bring it. There's no real source of beat up. There's no source of self hitting other than something we saw in week two. But we'll get to that when we get to that.
I
So
see.
if you ignore the Annihilate, it never gets stacks and it'll just fall over eventually.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that toxic spikes are an excellent way to handle Annihilate. Getting one layer is going to be good enough just to have, like, reasonable chip. Two layers means that, like, it can no longer do the thing that it was so famous for in the first season it appeared, which was sit on the field, with Drain Punch.
For sure.
Because Toxic will outpace that after a few turns.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at OJ's side, we see the psychic duo of Crown and Espathra. My immediate thought was some sort of like psychic terrain shenanigan from those two. Not at all what ended up happening though.
Yeah, I mean, I think Espathra is just like a single-handed counter to Blaziken. Like, think about it. It's also a bird with speed boost. It's got the type advantage with the Psychic Stab, and it's got a higher base stat
By
or
like
base speed stat.
5.
but that's all you
Yeah.
need.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a perfect way to just say like, I mean, it can't switch in on a Blaziken already who's already on the field, but
Hmm.
um, once it's there, it's not like Blaziken can ever outpace it, or if it's even if they start at the same turn.
Yeah. No, it makes
So
sense.
I
I
like
like
it a lot.
Espathra here. I think it makes a lot of sense. Everything else here is pretty straightforward. Ogre Pawn left behind. Any thoughts on that?
Well, uh, what is it? It's Ogreparn Cornerstone.
Yeah.
So, maybe it just felt too threatened by some of the Pokemon like the Blaziken. I mean, obviously, like there's a couple rock weak Pokemon. Blaziken not actually being one of them, but like Moltres and Salazzle, who are not going to like the fully accurate rock move that the Ogremon has. Follow Me can be kind of interesting. You know, there are a couple of Pokemon here, like notably the Annihilate, that have like a curious relationship with Follow Me. Like you said, there's no way that Annihilate's getting its own rage stacks. So if the Follow Me is taking all the pressure off of it, it's almost like it's a dead slot. Like the Annihilate isn't doing damage. So the Follow Me only really becomes a useful tool once the Annihilate has been hit. So
Right.
I don't know. I can kind of see it staying
For sure.
when it did.
Okay. Sounds good. Ready to start the match then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So getting. Hang on. Why is the music on? Stop that. There we go. We've got Ment's Iron Crown versus Whimsicott Salazzle, which reads as a pretty typical fake out Tailwind lead to me, right?
Totally.
Which is
But we
not
get
what
Protect
happens.
instead. Yeah. This is something that we saw a little bit of last season from a couple of our quick ball players, and like just a good learning moment here. Fake out Protect is very rarely I think a good play.
Yeah.
You're almost never providing yourself any pressure to do anything. What you're effectively doing is banking on, like, maybe you get the right fake out target. Like if it had gone into Ments, you get 10% max, and you're still exactly where you were the last turn. I think the only time it makes sense is if there's like another fake out on the same thing that you're trying to sort of bait out, and maybe you want to protect a sash on Salazzle or something like that. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I can think of.
It's
But
rare.
either way, I think that like you want to generally be faking out as your partner Pokemon is using the turn to do something useful, whether that's Tailwind or to take out a crucial pick, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Just not protect.
Yeah. Grimmsnarl comes back out here. There's the Tailwind.
Yeah, so good speed at this point. There's a good bit of pressure here, and we see a miss from the dual wing beat. That was gonna kill.
Yeah. Which is a big deal for Stone here, because that means the second layer of Toxic Spikes goes up before Ments gets the chance to take the kill.
Yeah, so second time around, gets the hit, gets the kill. That's the risk of running dual wing bait. It's not accurate.
Yeah. Iron Crown comes in, immune to the poison damage, and we're just gonna double into the Grimmsnarl here, and goodbye.
Yeah. How do you think? Well, like for other people watching this match, what's a good way to deal with Toxic Spikes if you are expecting your opponent to bring it?
I mean, if you have a poison type, especially, I feel the poison types are a little bit lower in C tier. Obviously, you can just drop your poison type on it. If you don't, it's a little hard because you have to, you either have to bring like a Cleric or Rapid Spin, which is a little bit harder to declare. My preferred solution is it's 2 turns they have to spend not dealing damage. So if you think they're really going to want to bring Toxic Spikes, just have, your Pokemon in position to be ready for it, and then just punish those 2 turns, and by that point the toxic damage isn't going to catch up with the ground they've lost setting it up in the first place.
Sure, yeah. I mean, for other funny things, there's Snatch, and there is, what's the other one? Court Change? Defog. Court Change is only one Pokemon, so don't ignore that one.
Hey, we got Smeargle.
Oh, true. So one person in the league can run Court Change. Anyway.
Yeah,
we got Espathra is out here. I think this is nice. Like it's getting ahead on the speed boost, so Blaziken can't put pressure on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Good
then
earth
we
power.
see it's not only getting its speed up here, but it's also stalling out the last turn of Tailwind. Although that's not going to really matter because the Whimsicott goes for Protect. But I think you could see the plan there was to kill the Whimsicott with Tachyon Cutter at the same turn as
Yeah.
Tailwind goes down.
I think even so, just getting this in means that, the Whimsicott is forced to click Tailwind here and die for the cause.
Which it does,
So,
yeah. And then we see a Baton Pass, which is
goes
very
into
interesting.
Swampert.
I think it's a good tech for Espathra. It really is. It works a lot here. So now
Yeah.
Swampert comes in and is fast. And we have the second thing that I think we should comment on here, and that's the Gastrodon coming in after the Tailwind. So
last turn? I'll go back.
yeah, so the Tailwind is good here. I think like not only do we set up Tailwind, but the Whimsicott very conveniently goes down, allowing you to get a free switch into whatever you want that you have left in the Tailwind under maximum turns of it. So can you unpause just for a sec? I don't know if the
sorry.
speed boost went up here.
Yeah.
Because I'm
it
thinking
was
like,
last turn.
can we switch the Blaziken here? Like with Tailwind, would you be faster, or is there already going to be neutral? Is the Spathra at +2?
I mean, at this point, it's at +1. You get Earth Power off, and then this thing's low. So you're saying on the next turn, can you bring in Blaziken?
Yeah. So I was just curious, but my point was going to generally be that like Gastrodon's coming in on the turn of Tailwind here, where I don't see it applying enough pressure to really feel like the Tailwind became like a worthwhile investment.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting here, you're gonna see Iron Crown and Swampert.
Yeah.
Like, does Gastrodon really feel like the Pokemon that's like, I need to apply momentum right now? He has two, Iron Crown's gonna die to a hit.
Yeah.
Swampert is full health but toxic and doesn't put out a lot of damage of its own. So maybe Blaziken isn't feeling comfortable coming in next to the water ground type. I kind of get that. Moltres here, probably a little bit better of a pick, but in general, just something that's a little more offensive that can say, I have speed control for 3 turns. I'm going to use that. And at the end of the 3 turns, you're going to have far fewer Pokemon. But Gastrodon's just not that Pokemon.
Yeah, Gastrodon's just there kind of like to slow down the pace, among other things. So just picking something that's there to just cause problems during the time you have the advantage makes a lot of sense. Gastrodon comes back out, Hex into the slot, and Knockoff not doing much because Giratina is holding onto its orb very tightly. So it's
Giratina is interesting. I think one of those Pokemon that's like, it's pretty good to have the dark type coverage on non-dark type Pokemon is usually Knockoff.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that's like, you're most likely doing less than 50 to Giratina.
For sure. I mean,
Gastrodon takes the kill. Yeah,
Avalanche.
and we see an Avalanche come out. But it's speed boosted is a little bit
Avalanche is double damage if you move second, right?
Well, it's if you get hit. It's not even if you move second. So it has to be hit. And I mean, in Tailwind, it actually is slower here, but just with the whole strategy of speed boosting Swampert to then click Avalanche, I think is a little odd. But yeah, we see another miss, unfortunately, from high horsepower. That would probably have not done too much damage.
Yeah. I don't think it matters this game. Here comes the Annihilate. It's toxic, so its life is on a timer. And we don't have a way of getting stacks on it ourselves. So we need to rely on the opponent doing that for us, which Stone is very much not intending to do this game.
Yeah, we'll see what it ends up doing. It's going for a unboosted Rage
50 base
Fist.
power Rage Fist, which wouldn't have done much. I mean, a little bit because super effective.
Outrage,
there's
though.
the Outrage.
Yep, that's a +1 speed Outrage, and we don't know it yet. Well, Stone might realize this from the dual wing beat, but that is a banded Vents as well.
Yeah.
So that thing is going to be taking kills with whatever Outrage targets.
I'm pretty sure it one-taps the rest of the board here.
Right. And I think Stone mentioned he was doing calcs through this match, so I think he realized the deadliness of the Outrage. What he told me after the match, though, was that he didn't realize that Outrage targeted randomly. So I think that should inform our view of how the rest of this plays out.
Yeah, for sure. Annihilate is almost dead. It dies to poison next turn and hasn't really done much yet. The Moltres protects here. Outrage goes into the Gastrodon slot. And we have Seed Bomb Annihilate, presumably.
Yeah, Seed Bomb's a little odd.
I think it's to hit the Gastrodon. but it
Okay,
retargeted
that
because
makes
it died.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That probably did go in the Gastrodon slot. Yeah, so the protect on Moltres you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so for me personally, ignoring the fact that Stone didn't know that the outrage was random, whether you know it or not, in this situation you have an Ice Beam revealed Gastrodon, and you have a Moltres that can do a 3-hit KO on Salamence with Fiery Wrath. It has other options. I'm not sure if they get you past a 3-hit KO or anything. To me, when you're in this position where this Salamence is just going to take a kill every time, and you can just kind of ignore the Annihilate, it's a little bit safer to just double the slot. Say, I don't care about this Annihilate, I'm just going to attack into this Salamence, and eventually we will kill it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do that this turn, it's down 33% HP, a little bit more than that, which can maybe get you a little bit further in the future. But we'll see that when we
Yeah.
get there.
It probably also means that Blaziken is that much closer to getting the kill at a later
Yeah.
point. But like, I don't think Blaziken kills Salamence from full, unless you're carrying. I don't think Blaziken gets any ice moves.
No, I don't think so. Like, you probably have to, like, run a non-stab and deal, like, 70 or something. So
Honestly, I bet close combat does 60%
I
at
believe it.
least. I
Yeah,
think close combat might have picked up the kill after a Fiery Wrath, but maybe not.
maybe. I think Stone had other options in this match in terms of what to hit it with.
Mhm.
'Cause I don't think he just wanted to get walled by Salamence. Outrage targets into the Protect. The Confusion comes out, blocks the Psychic 2, and Fiery Wrath almost kills a Spathra.
Yep.
But they're matching speed.
Yeah, so Spathra's going to go first here, and yeah, that 4% live does make a pretty big difference. Well, maybe not, actually.
Yeah.
'Cause
It
I think that
helps.
outrage was going to kill.
Yeah, I mean, well, if it killed, if the Psychic killed, then the Outrage would have gone into Moltres and you'd just be dead. Right?
Yeah, I'm saying that the percent on a Spathra,
Oh,
like if
sorry,
the Spathra had not lived, then
Yeah,
Blaziken would have been healthier, but I still think outrage kills.
that's what
That's
I
all
meant.
I'm
No,
saying.
yeah, you're right. That
So
goes down.
here we see where you were saying earlier, like Mence would be dead at this point
Yeah,
if the first protect from Moltres had instead been Fiery Wrath.
yeah,
It's like a bit of a hindsight thing. Like if on the turn that Moltres protected, the outrage had gone into Moltres, I think Stone wins the game right there because Ice
yeah,
Beam goes into the Mence and it either dies or is very low.
yeah, for sure. My thing
So
is, I
it's a
think
call, you know.
even if that happens, you Ice Beam, like, even if you don't protect, you lose Moltres, you Ice Beam. Can you win the game with Gastrodon and Mega Blaziken
Blaziken.
versus Espathra in the back? I think so.
Yeah, I mean the Espathra would have come in at the same turn as the Blaziken there,
Mhm.
so they would again still be on equal footing.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's just it's a weird position. It's easy to say in hindsight, like, oh, you should have done exactly this. But it's just one of those things where I find that if you're in that position where you're just gonna lose a mon and you can ignore the other slot, unless you really think you know what they're gonna do, you can just double the slot, and it's usually the safer play.
Yep. But yeah,
Um,
unfortunately, the way it works out, as we see, is now we're in a position where outrage is basically just trying to break through confusion, which it
it
eventually
does.
does. Well, it does the whole time actually. So
Hmm.
a couple things go in OJ's favor as far as the outrage targeting and the breaking through confusion, but overall, I think both players did pretty well here. Like
Hmm.
they both tried to position their win cons very well. Salamence got 5 kills. It was so close to being to getting one of those,
The rare
sixers.
6-0.
Yeah, for the history books. But
Robbed.
alas, yeah, no, it did well. And then I think Stone did a good job. I think I mean, whether or not you could say this is over prepping or just doing like adequate prep, but I think he put a lot of work into the Annihilate, and it didn't do anything. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, then something else came and picked up the slack.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anything else about this game? I think we're all good otherwise.
Yep, I think we're good.
So we have Golden Gods versus Platinum Dawn. This is your week 1, so I'll leave it to you to explain your prep for this game.
Sure. Yeah. This is my first match, and this is up against Ven. And personally, looking at her team, I didn't feel like it was a very favorable matchup into my top Pokemon. Like you can see, I did not even bring my S tier, which is Kyurem Black. I just felt that most Kangaskhan's run a fighting type move. You know, Kyurem Black is not gonna threaten Ven's Dragon type, whereas you know, she could be running Flash Cannon or Draco or even Body Press on the Archaludon, so it's just winning that matchup in almost any variant of the set. So yeah, I was trying to figure out what to bring over Kyurem. I ended up bringing two C tiers here, and I think the Gallade was a fairly obvious pick. I would expect that she thought that was going to be coming. It's my only, you know, it's one of my only Pokemon with Stab that kills the bridge, and the other one being Diggersby, who did not show up. What I really like about the Gallade as just a solid answer to the bridge is that Sacred Sword. Not only is it high base power, but it ignores stat boosts, so it will proc stamina, but it's not going to be affected by stamina, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we talked about a bit before the match, was usually with Archaludon, you want to try to hit it specially, unless you really think you can blow it up before it gets stamina boosts, because all your calcs start going out the window the second that thing starts stacking up. Gallade's unique in that it doesn't really care about that, and just goes ahead and just kills the bridge on the physical side regardless. So, Gallade's really helpful to have here, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. I was so worried about like Gallade having something happen to it that I'm even running Lumberry this week because I was worried about just a variety of statuses like Thunderwave from the Screamtail.
Mm-hmm.
I was worried if I Sacred Sworded into like one of the fighting weaknesses and Moltres switches in and I get burned from Flame Body. You know, just there were a couple things that I was worried about going wrong, and I felt like if something happened to Gallade early and there were still the Kangaskhan and the bridge left, then I think that was just over for me. I did not put any prep into the Rotom the Rotom fan that's on the field right now, and I honestly should have. Like, it didn't really. I don't know. It's a bias thing. I just was like, this has never been drafted before. It's got the haha like funny redundant ability. What is it doing? But truthfully, like thinking about it more, you know, Air Slash, like good, like flying type, like offense is pretty good. Into at least what I brought. And then you also have a Steel resist. You have a Ground immunity, Fighting resist. It's just, I think I mean, it got the Thunderbolt to check the Blastoise.
And the Jugulus.
Yeah, and the Jugulus. Like truly, even discounting what I could have brought, like it's a good pick. I should have thought about it more. But it's here. It ends up doing some fun stuff. What else do we see here? We see the Screamtail, the Moltres.
To me.
I put a lot more prep into Moltres. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if this thing's in rain, it's throwing out very powerful hurricanes. If it's not in rain, it's still hard for me to kill. Like I don't have very good stab options into it, and it could be bulky with Roost. I was a little worried about that set.
Mega Venusaur, I feel like, kind of forces people to bring psychic or flying damage just because it doesn't have many weaknesses and you're not really breaking it without hitting them. But those are kind of weird types to consistently have. You know, some people have a strong psychic type and it's like, sure. But flying stab can be annoying, especially on the, you know, on the special side at times. Psychic is not a great type, so makes sense to pack the Moltres here for sure. Also deals with Gholdengo, among other things. So yeah, double flying type just makes sense. Venusaur is an absolute monster if you don't blow it up as soon as possible.
Yeah, it can certainly take over a game or just be like a sitting win con at the end.
Yeah.
Like even if it doesn't feel like it's applying a lot of pressure, it's just not dying.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think my main game plan going into this is leading Ribombee, getting Sticky Webs down, and then I figured I would be coming back from a deficit, and hopefully the Sticky Webs would help me do that. That was
for sure.
most of my plan.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to start us off here then. Let's see. All right, Kangaskhan.
I love
Screamtail
these
in the
nicknames.
lead. Screamtail has come back to haunt you for your past crimes.
Ah! Yeah, so we have the exactly what I described. Ribombee's here. It's going to try to set Sticky Webs. Yeah, I left because I figured the Fake Out was coming in, and I thought, hey, that's some Rocky Helmet chip, which is what happened.
Because Scrappy lets it hit Gholdengo with the Fake Out before it Megas. And now we see the Mega, and the Stealth Rock comes out.
Yeah, I was expecting the Stealth Rocks. Stealth Rocks is also something that's very good to me. I mean, you can For anyone listening, I will probably be running Rapid Spin every week. Smile. Like it's,
He
it's
would
just
never
not.
leave it behind.
I can't. Like a lot of I love a lot of rock weaknesses. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for
but
sure.
we are seeing in action the power of not Moltres, sorry, Rocky Helmet,
Yeah,
where this Kangaskhan I feel like probably should have left 2 turns ago
yeah,
because watch this Drain Punch, 14% minus 17, 7% plus 3 minus 17.
yeah. The
It
reflect
lost
helps, but
health. Yeah, the
yeah, it's a
reflect
bad
helps a lot.
trade.
But yeah,
Moonblast
it does get
pulls
out of there. Yeah,
17.
sorry.
No, you're
Big
fine.
Fangary's here.
There
And
we
then
go.
there's my
There's the
Rapid
rapid
Spin.
spin.
Yeah. So both these Pokemon here don't really love to be here. That's an unfortunate Hurricane. I am sashed, so it wasn't gonna kill, but obviously like my sash is still up, which is nice.
Yeah. I feel like that's something if you flip the speed order on the Mons in the way they were trained, you could have just guaranteed the Rain Dance goes off before the Hurricane.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what Moltres versus I think it's like what 85 or something versus 100, but
Yeah,
there's a
I
world where
think
that
Moltres
goes
was
off in the right
90.
order.
Stop that.
That's
But yeah,
happening again.
Blastoise just goes down.
Yeah, Blastoise is fine to go down here. Like I have one more turn of Tailwind, and what I'm going to use it for, who knows? Like I forget what I was doing. I think I was here just trying to bait out a attack into the Moltres while I went for a Thunder, but she very nicely goes for this Roost, and so my Thunder is no longer super effective. We can see
Yeah.
it actually only did 55, so it wasn't going to kill either way, but that's still pretty nice.
Yeah,
and I'm switching the Venusaur right out there because I thought I can't let this thing die.
Yeah, another Thunder. Useful para on a Mon that sticks around this long, just having a chance to take turns from it is actually pretty nice.
Yeah, I don't know if the speed itself
The
doesn't matter
speed
too
is
much because
whatever,
the
but
webs are doing that.
That's nice. Goodbye, Jugulus.
Jugulus sets the Tailwind and kills itself, which is fine. We can see Electroshot doing very little damage to the switch in Venusaur. And now here
Gallade.
is where I'm hoping I can get some momentum back.
Yeah.
I went for a read here and got very bailed out. The composite one, I'll talk about this here. Like,
Yeah,
obviously I was expecting that my Sacred Sword was fairly obvious, and so I thought maybe she wants to preserve the bridge and get out of there. And I think she just read me and was like, you don't target bridge here, I'm gonna take the kill. I think in retrospect I should have just targeted the bridge. I felt like I was behind enough that I needed to go for what I thought of was like, a bold play. And I believe I did the calc in the match, and I saw that Electroshot at +2 was a low roll to kill. So if the Electroshot went off, it was, hopefully not killing the Gallade. And if it did kill the Glade, at least Venusaur is still a pretty good counter to the bridge. So that was my thought process. None of that ends up mattering because the full para comes through. Ven did say after the match she went for the Electroshot, and Glade would have been the target. So, like I said, I got pretty bailed out there.
Would that have killed Gallade?
It would have been a roll to kill. I think it was something. We did the calc after the match. It was something like a, I don't know, 20% chance, maybe a little higher. I don't remember.
Probably not, but I mean, still could have happened. So yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah, Gallade has some good special bulk, surprisingly, and it's. I think I did invest a little bit in HP here, but now we see the Sacred Sword. Yeah, the Steel Chair, defense boosts ignored, and another Play Rough missed. That Play Rough was going
that could have killed, I think.
Well, we said it was, I think, going to do 80 to 90, but
gotcha.
the combination of both the paralysis and the miss
stuff.
are unfortunate. I reveal
nice
Weather Ball in my Tailwind. Yeah, that I was saving that for when I had speed advantage to reveal that, and that worked out.
Makes sense.
But now we see the power of the webs. My Tailwind is down, but everything that's coming in is going to be at -1. And at that point, I can kind of just wrap up the game.
Yeah, well-positioned Goldengo just continues to be a monster. Unfortunately.
Yeah, it does that. Once it's got the advantage of having chipped everything, Make It Rain is going to start killing things.
Yeah.
That's a banded Aqua Jet, by the way, so kind of a big Verbombi W there for living 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Yeah, some unfortunate stuff towards the end of that game, but on the whole, I think it was pretty back and forth, so I think it's a pretty interesting game overall.
Yeah, I think it's a decent advantage, or sorry, decent example of sacrificing pieces to then later have advantage, which is what I did with the Blastoise and the Rabombi.
With the webs, you mean?
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
Rabombi could have led and died, and that's kind of, I mean, that is literally why I named it why I named it Jesus Christ, because it was meant to die for the rest of the team's speed control.
For sure. Just because
Yeah.
there's a lot of middling speed Pokemon here that webs is enough for you to overcome on this team, so it makes sense.
Yeah, there are several that I thought either wouldn't be speed invested, and that would have been enough, or like things like Screamtail, where if Screamtail is booster energied, um, but is at -1, my Rabombi can outspeed it.
Right.
Um, and similarly, like if it's got no booster energy, and what am I saying? And anyway, it was supposed to sort of slow down the Screamtail.
No, it makes sense. Yes. Sticky Web, I feel, is kind of hard to prep for just because when it goes down, it's such a big deal. But it tends to be on lower tier Pokemon, so you don't always know when it's coming out.
Yeah, and Rabombi does other things pretty well. So even if
Yeah.
once you see the Rabombi lead, it's like it could be doing a lot of, screens, speed controls. It could set up for its own Quiver Dance. Who knows?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
will say there's a couple of Pokemon I expected to see here that were not. Um, one of them was Glamora. I was pretty afraid. Like I said, I'm fairly weak to rocks, and while the toxic spikes themselves aren't like doing too much to me, because I can also just bring in the Venusaur and kill them.
Hmm.
I thought that like one of the only ways that I don't get the webs up is if there's like a Glamora lead and it's
Hmm.
scarfed or something. So I was a little worried about that just for that reason. And then the other thing I thought about was like if Spiritomb had arrived here, I didn't really have a great way of killing it at all. Um, it's pretty
Yeah,
bulky and my team struggles to do fairy damage.
yeah. Spiritomb's weird, but I mean, what is it? I didn't know what it did to you, to be honest.
Yeah, it can't single-handedly win the game, but it can be annoying. It can
Yeah,
burn things.
I guess.
But
With
I think knowing
single
what I
to
know
single
now about the
attacker.
Rotom fan, I think the Rotom fan was absolutely the right call into me, and I should have respected it more.
Yeah,
It ended up getting the only kills of the match, and deservedly.
yeah. I mean, I think she even mentioned, I just took this as, because it was the only undrafted Rotom, and here it is, absolutely popping off this game.
We love to
But
see
yeah,
it.
anything else on this match?
Nope, GG's. That's a good one.
So this is our last game for this week. This is Jovial Fakeout versus Dipper Offense. I don't know.
It's probably Diaper because it's a play on the word cyber offense.
Oh, sure, fair enough. Okay.
Did you
Well,
just realize that?
I was not paying attention. I throw up every time I have to look at this name. Um,
Yeah, and the logo. Don't forget that.
I try not to think
Anyway,
about it.
on
We
topic.
we have Hyper Offense plus Dozogiri on Hoser's side versus Ned's usual bag of tricks,
The
I
big
think,
guys.
and Jolteon.
Ned's big guys and
The big
Jolteon and
guys.
the
The
secret ninja
secret.
hiding behind that rock.
He's not
Yeah.
here.
So
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say the Dozogiri appearing. I feel like is I don't know if I would say I expected it from the first week, but I'm not surprised to see it. Um, it's one of those duos that one of them I don't know one of them can come alone. I guess like Dozo is
Usually
not that bad
Dozo.
alone. Giri can be useful, I suppose, as a solo draft, but is far more useful when it's doing its gimmick.
For sure.
Um,
Unless you have like a good use for Storm Drain that game, usually it wants to be paired.
yeah, I don't think that's the case here.
No.
Maybe ever with Hoser's team. Landorus is like the only real
Yeah,
weakness to
for sure.
water. Anyway, so yeah, that's but we've got the Dozogiri. We have who's the high tier that's being left for Galvantula? Who are we missing here?
For Galvantula,
Silvally.
we Silvally, yeah, which I guess
Yeah.
makes sense. Like you have to, especially if you're bringing Dosogiri. Part of the idea with Hoser's team is that the B tier is just kind of awful to prep for because Silvally can do whatever. Dozogiri could or could not come, so it's kind of up in the air what happens with the B tier. So Galvantula slotting in here makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, and we're also missing Chandelier on Ned's side. I think that also, I could see that making sense. Like Chandelier's not the fastest without Scarf, and there's a lot of speed on the other side of the team.
Dies to
Um,
Landorus, dies to the water types. It
yeah,
makes it.
it's a
I
pretty good
get it.
check into Lele, and it
Sure.
obviously can switch into something like a close combat or a Dire Claw relatively well. Maybe not the Dire Claw because you're risking status, but
Yeah.
um, I mean type wise, it does a pretty good job checking the top two Pokemon, but
Hmm.
it's scared of the rest for sure.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. We'll see more of the Jolteon in a little bit, but the set's fun. I think we're good to go ahead and start. Yeah.
Well, one more thing
Oh,
I'll
sorry. Go
say
ahead.
like prep into the Dozogiri. It seems
Oh,
like
sure.
Ned's
Yeah.
done quite a bit of. Like we have the Sinistra and the Mega Blastoise, which are both Pokemon that um, kind of just need to be taken care of before
Hmm.
Dozogiri is allowed to be on the field. Otherwise, Ned can just switch them in, and that will almost single-handedly invalidate those two Pokemon.
Pretty much. There's some ways you can deal with it, but I would say either one of them has to go down before you set it up, or you have to be in a position where Tatsugiri cleans up what's left after, specifically versus Sinistcha, because it can actually kind of fight that thing. Not really Blastoise as much. Um, yeah, anything else?
No, that's it. Yeah, we can go ahead.
Okay, sure, sounds good. We get the Garganackle and the Zamazenta lead versus the adult woman, um, adult man, didn't set the gender, that's okay, and Galvantula. We get,
What is the what is that? No, sorry, not Galvantula. What is the rock here? What's his name? Garganacl. What's the lead do? What's that for?
I am not sure what Bro does. I think Ned might have been afraid of, um, probably a Sneasler lead. I mean, it's decent into Sneasler. We'll see what it does in a second, but I mean, it lives. I think it's spec to live a close combat. It's not going to take much from Dire Claw, and it can actually hurt the Sneasler here. So I assume it's for that.
Okay, cool.
We see Fake Out Normal Gem to get the Unburden proc off, which, if you're not planning to run Psychic Terrain, makes a lot of sense, I think. It is kind of, like, risky, and it costs your move slot for the Fake Out and the item slot, but,
It also just doesn't give you a stat boost,
yeah,
notably. Although
it's like if you...
maybe the special defense isn't useful into Ned's team. Looking at it,
Yeah. So, like, I
not
kind of
very.
get it, but it's if you want another way of guaranteeing you get the item off, sure, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
that makes sense.
Thunder Wave into Zamazenta, so now it is paralyzed, and we see Toxic Spikes comes out. Makes a ton of sense with a Dozogiri team. That is why I think Garganacle's in the lead, was to Zen Headbutt the Sneasler, which it didn't quite get the chance to do.
I'm a little curious what the point though of like thinking about this. You could have Psychic Fanged the Sneasler and then Salt Cured the bug. Like there's an
True.
opportunity to do that here as well. And
I
Psychic Fangs
guess,
doesn't
yeah.
miss.
Um, yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not
I
sure
think it
then,
might be
honestly.
looking at the move set, which I think as a policy we're just not going to try to reveal stuff that hasn't been revealed, but um, it just seems like an attack of opportunity. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
Like it's there. It has a super effective option, so it's thinking like I can do that, and it would have killed. So
Yeah.
just really rolling the odds on the not miss happening, which unfortunately
It's still a
we see
dead
the
gem
miss.
game after all.
Yeah, yeah, the curse, the witch's curse. We can't escape it.
Um, but yeah, a layer of Toxic Spikes goes up here, which is really common on Dozogiri. Hoser opts not to set the second layer and instead doubles into Zamazenta, but it lives because Zamazenta is, you know, fat.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that that lived. I mean the acrobatics isn't stab, I guess,
Yeah,
but
the plus
was probably
one.
still yeah.
Yeah.
But here
Jolteon
comes
comes in,
Jolteon.
takes the Psychic, switches in. Blastoise comes out, also takes regular poison here.
A lot of status being spread for Ned.
Yeah, and it's gone.
It's gone. It's there. Oh, hold up.
Yep.
Wait a sec. Oh no, it's okay. I was building tension for the status.
Oh, sorry.
You can keep going.
That's okay. Yeah, the paralysis on the Zamazenta in the back also getting cleared, which is really nice because it'll actually have the chance to play the game again. And
And there's the status.
yeah,
Well,
to
not the
proc Quick
paralysis,
Feet.
the burn.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the whole point of that, yeah, is to proc the quick feet, which is a very just that's an awesome set. Props.
for sure.
Water
Yeah,
Pulse comes out and just nukes that Elandris, and we see
yeah.
the Geary come here.
I think part of the idea of the heal bell was also just to deal with random Dire Claw ideas, but it also just comes in clutch to
Yeah.
get Zamazenta the chance to come back out and die again, I guess.
Yep. Icy
Um,
Wind is not going to pick up the kill there. It's going to make Burn still take 2 turns to kill as well. So,
mhm.
um, not. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the Icy Wind does there. If there was a move that you had that could have killed um,
Probably. I mean,
the
I'm
Jolteon.
pretty sure it had. I mean, I don't think it'll click it, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't running a move that could hit Jolteon. Um, but yeah, so we have Toxic Orb Tatsugiri here. We saw a lot of Toxic Orb on Tatsugiri specifically in Season 6, which was the only time the duo has been drafted. Um, yeah,
How'd that go?
it went poorly back then.
Yeah.
Um, part of the thing about Dozogiri is that, I mean, you can do the Toxic Orb strat if you have, like, Flamigo on your team to eat the boosts, but even then, it's, like, hard. In this position, you have 3 Pokemon left. Lele's paralyzed, so you would have to get Lele out for Dozo, and then, you know, once Tatsugiri dies, you can bring Lele back in. But even then, you kind of, if you're running Toxic Spikes, you kind of just want to stall out the end game and just have them take as much Toxic chip as possible, so that you can, you know, they have to focus one Mon, that Mon is protecting every other turn, and you kind of win by War of Attrition. But you can't really do that if Tatsugiri dies and can't clean up the game for you. I think Tatsugiri does enough to be worth, you know, not killing it so that it can clean up the things that Dozo can't get. We'll see what exactly that is in a little bit, but yeah, I'm not too fond of Toxic Orb Tatsugiri, personally.
Yeah. Well, I think there's been lessons learned. We'll see how it ends
Yeah,
up going.
yeah. Here
Um,
comes
we also
Excelgor.
have a Psychic Seed proc on Excelgor, so it is unburdened and very fast, and now it's dead.
Yep.
Good
And
trade,
now,
actually.
yeah, for sure. Now we just have Dozogiri, and this Giri will not be alive too much longer. Hospitality
Another,
saves him from burn.
yeah, I guess the Protect is just to make sure that you can get the boost off, but consequently, we allow Jolteon to survive because you didn't click another attacking move. And
Yeah,
Jolteon's now gotten another status off on
yeah.
on the Dondozo,
Which
which
is big.
is just, it did so much this match.
Hmm. Here come the two Dozo answers. Hayes immediately setting this back to much more favorable ground.
Yeah, Ned's done a really good job of preserving the 2 things that they needed to preserve to make sure that
Hmm.
Dozogiri can't just end game.
Yeah. Blastoise at this point can reasonably win. But I mean, we see in this position, if this Sinistcha was Toxic tier instead of regular poisons from the second spikes, it's not living nearly as long as it is right now. Because it still takes a while to get through this Dozo, even
I
if
mean,
it is
yeah,
getting
right
better.
as it is now, it's not on a timer because it's able to heal in 2
Yeah.
of its moves. Like
Plus,
it
like,
can do
you
Strength
want to...
Sap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you want to be clicking Order Up for damage, because otherwise you're clicking, like, Earthquake or a Water move, I think. But that's setting your attack back up, which means this Sinistcha never dies.
Yep.
So it's a little tough. I'm gonna set the speed back up because it's a Dondozo endgame.
Yeah, we see a couple paralyses come out here. I don't think any of them end
I
up
don't think
really
so.
mattering, because like what you said, without the toxic status and we just have poison, there's nothing that the Dozo is going to be able to do to,
Hmm.
to stop the Sinistcha from just healing back up.
Yeah. And, I mean, this is what I was talking about with the Tatsugiri, where if Tatsugiri is not, you know, dead in a ditch right now from the Toxic Orb, once this Sinistcha goes down, if you had, you know, a different set, if you had a set, like, with Ice Beam on it, you can 2-tap Sinistcha with Ice Beam and just kill the thing that Dozo was getting walled by, and then just win the game off it. So,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that like the toxic orb thing only really works if you use the Dozo early, and that can only work if the opponent doesn't know you're going to bring it, which is never going to be the case in a draft league.
yeah, for sure. So, it's a little tough, but Dozo Giri is a little weird to get used to, so it's just like a learning curve. I'm sure, you know, Hoser learns from the experience, and we'll hopefully see some different stuff from Dozo Giri in the future. But
Yeah,
yeah, really
I
good match.
I could still
Go ahead.
see I could still see the Dozogiri like getting the slip on somebody.
Yeah,
Whether or not they expect it to come, it could end up doing stuff. I'm not saying it's never going to do that. Just in
yeah,
this case,
absolutely.
it kind of provided not too much value, and I think the game plan from the start was
It was a
you
little
know it, it,
tough.
it was definitely tough with
Yeah,
Ned's team.
yeah, but Ned also just played the match well. I mean, there was the Zen headbutt that could have killed that Sneasler earlier, but they found a way to recover. The Jolteon putting in ridiculous amounts of work. Heal Bell, Flame Orb, Quick Feet Jolteon is an absolutely diabolical set.
Truly, yeah. I don't think it would have outsped full speed Sneasler under Unburden,
No.
but I mean, it's able to do one Electro Web, and if it's still in the field, now it's outspeeding and able to continue to apply pressure, or Thunder Wave things before then. So I really like it. I didn't realize Quick Feet was an ability until Ned showed me their team. I was like, cool. Guts has a twin sister. Like, there is another.
Alright, that's our week 1 of matches here. On the whole, pretty good week to start us off. I think a lot of scary teams, a lot of fun matches. Hopefully, again, sorry that this is coming out later than normal. We're going to try to get things back on track in the next, episode or two. That's going to require that we get, a studio again.
Yeah, we need a place to record that's not, a public domain area. So we're probably going to get another studio. First, we probably have to get some income because, when I hit the mail, we lost all our money. It was a big
What do you
accident.
mean we lost all our money? We have the month's rent.
Sorry, it's gone. We need to get
Where,
more. I hear
where
that
did
there are
where did you
openings
put it?
on 71 Gordion. We could probably get some jobs there. I hear it's good work. A little
S-
dangerous, but
71 Gordion? What is that? Where
I
is
hear
that?
it is a faraway moon where we can drop off garbage for getting money, or we get money for dropping off garbage. Seems like a good gig. I think we should go for it.
Well, sure, man. You know what? If you think it's gonna get us 1 month's rent, we can run it.
It's getting us a lot of rent. We'll be here for years. Well, not here, 'cause this is the Blueberry Academy. Anyway, we'll come back next week on time with more matches from TDD Week 2. So look out for that.
Yeah.
Adios.
Thanks for watching.